Welcome to episode 5 of Creepify True or False, the original animated web series where I illustrate and narrate creepy and hard to believe stories. At the end of each episode, I'll tell you which stories were factual and which ones were fabricated. For reference, I am a male. When I was in high school in the mid-aughts, I was dating a guy named Alex who claimed he could see spirits. I was the incredulous type at this time, although this experience is what shaped me to believe in a world we can't necessarily see. We broke into a courthouse on the East Coast that we believed was haunted. We wanted to check it out because people claimed it was haunted. It had a basement that piqued my interest. My boyfriend grew upset that I wanted to look inside it. Looking back, I was just a teenager who wanted to look cool, but as I said, it caught my attention. Alex said that he felt something evil in that basement, a presence that wanted to cause harm to anyone who intruded. This whole time he said there were bad vibes in this place. He physically dragged me away from the entrance and wouldn't let me look. In the end, we didn't go into that particular entrance. But I think that's when we got the attention of whatever or whoever was inside. We ended up going back into the main courthouse shortly thereafter and making out a little bit. I know it seems weird, but we got caught up in the moment and it felt right. But not too long after, Alex abruptly stopped. He jumped up and looked horrified. Seeing him act so completely afraid rubbed off on me, and I felt a little scared too. If you've ever seen someone struck by terror or felt it yourself, you'll know what I'm talking about. We left that particular room, and I happened upon a spiral staircase that led up to a door. Being ever curious, I took the stairway up and opened the door, and behind it was a brick wall, completely obstructing any sort of exit. That in itself was strange, but when I got back down and looked up, I saw some kind of silhouetted shadow person. I was close enough to be able to discern any features of this specter, yet there were none. It was as if darkness took the shape of a person. Though it looked to have no eyes that could see me, I could tell it was looking in our direction. More specifically, it was looking at me. It was like a weight on top of me, the fear I felt from that dark and simple form. I watched him, or it, turn and open a door behind him and walk inside that door I had just scoped out. So I know this couldn't have been possible. Now I wanted to leave. My boyfriend didn't argue at all. He had seen what I did. When we left the courthouse, I looked up and saw the shadow that stalked us inside, watching us go. I wish I could put into words the fear that gripped me still, and I was left with so many questions. Alex and I broke up a long time ago. A few weeks ago, I ended up chatting with him a little bit. It was the first time we'd spoke since we graduated high school. Being that he was the only one who shared this experience with me and saw the Umbra-like man, I asked him about it.
Yeah, I remember.
He laughed. I didn't understand what was funny about it, but he continued.
It's been following you around since that night.
As of now, Hurricane Ian is responsible for the deaths of at least 147 people, most of which happened in Florida. But there's a victim that was undoubtedly lost in the masses, and who remains nameless, to my knowledge at least. I live in one of the cities that got hit badly by the eye wall of the storm. The entire natural landscape around me is still different, and the tree line and surrounding area has not recovered. One of the hardest parts of the storm was being landlocked without power for over a week after Ian hit. We were flooded on all sides of our home and unable to drive our car out through the massive amount of water that became a moat around our living quarters. But I should back up a little bit first. The last night before the storm hit, it was September 27th, and I wanted to go out for one last walk around my neighborhood. I knew I most likely wasn't going to be able to for a while, and I was right. They had begun construction on a few new houses around the corner from mine, and I'd always noticed this one porta potty that smelled terribly. Of course they all do, but this one was awful. I also heard footsteps around that area whenever I'd walk by the vicinity. I chalked it up to deer and just crossed the road to avoid the stench. A couple of weeks after the storm hit, I was finally able to go walking again. When I made it back to the construction site, the stench was overpowering and it didn't smell like a normal porta potty. I know that sounds comical, but it was getting eerie. The site hadn't been worked on since before the hurricane hit, so, ever ruled by curiosity, I opened the door. There was a man inside. His throat had been cut and he looked like he was there for a while. There were stab marks all over him. And then I heard a rustling in the woods, but it sounded like it was charging for me. Hearing it more clearly, I realized it wasn't deer at all. It sounded more bipedal, so I rushed home to call the police. I'd never been through this before. It changes your perspective on life to realize how quickly it can all end. How you can just manage to live your life, and one day some psycho cuts you up and humiliates you like that. I spoke to the cops, and they said they'd have a look around the scene, and that was that. I had a hard time sleeping that night, and many nights after. I normally have a lot of raccoons and such running around outside my place. If you didn't gather, it's very much a wooded area with houses dispersed throughout, but something sounded different this one particular night. I was unnerved. Then I heard something scraping against my window. I felt paralyzed at first, but I had to look. And when I went outside, there was nothing there. So I got my cell phone flashlight app, and it reflected on something in the grass. There was a knife that was stabbed into the dirt. It's been over a month now, and no one has been caught. I don't go out for walks anymore. Now it's time to find out which of our stories was true and which was fiction. The first story where a young couple broke into a haunted courthouse and came upon a sinister shadow man who watched them. That story was in fact true, and thank you for that story submission. The second story was where a man happened upon a body in a portable toilet and was subsequently stalked outside his window. That story was false. I wrote it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Creepify True or False. As always, I deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate your support and time and your story submissions. If you have a creepy story, be it true or false, send it to the email in my channel description or head over to the Reddit community at r/creepifystories. Thank you all so much for watching. It truly makes me feel special to have such a supportive group of people enjoying my channel. It means more than I can express. Thank you and have a spooky day.